In every age, men have pursued success as though it were a distant treasure buried under worldly ambition. And yet, the Scriptures quietly unfold truths more solid than empires, more enduring than currency. While economies rise and fall, and trends shift like sand, the Bible reveals 4 businesses that never bend, never break, and never fail. The Bible does not present its truths with flashy slogans or corporate blueprints, yet hidden in its pages are principles that surpass every modern business strategy. Among the timeless lessons it offers, one stands as a foundational pillar: the business of wisdom. While our age may prize speed, profit, and performance, Scripture invites us into a more enduring enterprise, one rooted not in numbers, but in understanding. The pursuit of wisdom is not merely an intellectual exercise, but a spiritual investment with eternal return. When Proverbs declares that wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her, it is not offering poetic sentiment. It is presenting a divine economic truth. Wisdom is more valuable than material wealth because it governs how that wealth is obtained, used, and sustained. Without wisdom, riches are squandered. With it, even little becomes much. In every generation, those who have excelled did not simply gather information. They understood the deeper layers of cause and effect, the moral weight of decision, the unseen paths hidden in plain sight. Wisdom is what separates a builder who lays stone upon stone with vision from one who builds on sand with haste. The business of wisdom is not confined to scholars or sages. It is available to the humble, the seeker, the one who fears the Lord. For Scripture teaches that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This fear is not terror, but reverence, a clear-eyed recognition that God's way is higher, better, and eternal. And so, to engage in the business of wisdom is to orient life around God's design rather than personal ambition. It is to ask not only, will this work, but is this right? And does this honor the one who sees all things? There is a reason wisdom is personified in Proverbs as a woman calling out in the streets. She is not hidden in an ivory tower. She is calling to the simple, the unlearned, the distracted, to all who are willing to pause and listen. This is the great mercy of God, that He does not withhold wisdom from the average soul. Instead, He promises that if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. This is not the model of earthly institutions, where knowledge is hoarded and expertise becomes a gatekeeper. God's economy runs on generosity and clarity. To trade in wisdom is to make decisions that may not always be applauded, but will always stand. It may lead you away from quick riches and into long roads, but those roads are sure. It is wisdom that allows a person to discern the difference between a good opportunity and a dangerous shortcut. It is wisdom that causes a leader to seek counsel before making a move, and a parent to nurture character before achievement. In business, in relationships, in every corner of life, wisdom builds what lasts. And so, this is the first and perhaps the greatest of the divine enterprises, the lifelong, never-failing pursuit of wisdom. The world often exalts power, position, and prestige as the ultimate signs of success. But within the pages of Scripture lies a radically different blueprint, one that appends worldly logic and redefines greatness. At the heart of this divine economy is the business of service. This is not service demanded by duty, nor service motivated by self-interest. It is the voluntary laying down of one's strength, comfort, and time for the good of another. This form of service, though quietly practiced, carries eternal weight and unfailing reward. In the Gospels, there is a scene that defies all expectation. The one with authority over heaven and earth, the one who formed the stars and commands angels, stoops to wash the feet of fishermen. Dusty, calloused, ordinary feet. He does not delegate the task. He does not do it begrudgingly. He kneels with towel in hand and takes the place of a servant. This moment is more than symbolic. It is a declaration. The greatest among you will be your servant. In a world where titles and hierarchies determine worth, the Son of Man chose a basin and a towel over a throne and a crown. This was not weakness. It was strength under perfect control, wielded for the good of others. The business of service is the business of seeing people, not as stepping stones, not as tools for personal gain, but as souls worthy of dignity and compassion. It is the quiet decision to respond to a need without being noticed. It is the worker who does their task with excellence even when no one is watching. It is the leader who listens before speaking, who lifts others before lifting themselves. This kind of life often goes unnoticed by crowds, but never by heaven. Service builds trust, and trust is a currency that cannot be bought. In relationships, in leadership, in business, those who serve with sincerity earn a credibility that far outweighs credentials. While many chase influence, those who serve naturally attract it. People are drawn not to power, but to purpose, and service is the purest expression of purpose in action. A servant's heart is magnetic because it reveals something deeply divine. It reminds us of what we were made for. In a culture that urges self-promotion, the path of service may seem slow, even foolish, but it is the narrow way that leads to life. Every act of service, no matter how small, plants a seed. These seeds grow in ways we cannot see, bearing fruit long after the moment has passed. A kind word, an unnoticed sacrifice, a helping hand. All of these become part of an unseen kingdom economy that never fails. For in giving, we receive. In lowering ourselves, we are raised. The business of service is not a side path. It is the main road. It is not a lesser calling. It is the highest. To serve is to walk in the very steps of the one who gave all. And when a life is shaped by service, it does not collapse under the weight of pride or ambition. It stands firm, for it is built on love in action. The parable of the talents in Scripture is not merely a moral story. It is a divine revelation of how God views increase, responsibility, and the sacred duty of managing what has been entrusted to us. At its heart is the business of stewardship, a principle that never fails because it reflects the very nature of God, purposeful, intentional, and abundant. Stewardship begins with a fundamental understanding. Nothing we have truly belongs to us. Everything, from breath to bank account, is a gift, a trust, a sacred loan. And in this truth, we are not owners, but caretakers. The way we handle what we have been given reveals the posture of our hearts. In the story, a master distributes talents, measures of wealth, to his servants, each according to their ability. He does not give all equally, but he does expect all to do something with what they receive. 2 of the servants take their portion and go to work. They invest, they take risks, and they multiply what they've been given. The 3rd, however, buries his talent in the ground, fearful and passive. When the master returns, his response is telling. The ones who multiplied are praised not just for their results, but for their faithfulness. The one who hid his gift is not merely corrected. He is condemned for failing to steward what was entrusted to him. This is the principle at work. God is not interested in how much we start with, but how faithful we are with what we have. The business of stewardship is not about fortune. It is about fruitfulness. A person with little who is faithful will accomplish more than a person with much who is negligent. Stewardship calls us to diligence, to excellence, and to responsibility. It is a quiet discipline, often overlooked, yet always noticed by the one who sees in secret. Whether it is money, time, skills, relationships, or influence, How we manage these resources determines our capacity for more. Stewardship also requires courage. To invest a talent is to risk loss, to expose effort to the possibility of failure. But faithfulness is not safety. It is obedience in the face of uncertainty. The servant who buried his talent thought he was being careful, but in reality, he was being faithless. God honors action rooted in trust. He does not bless fear, but faithfulness. When we step forward and use what we have, however little, it creates the opportunity for increase. This principle applies across every area of life. The one who nurtures their gift will find it growing. The one who sharpens their skill will see new doors open. The one who honors their relationships will walk in deeper trust and connection. The business of stewardship is not seasonal. It is daily. It is seen in the smallest tasks, in unseen choices, in how we treat what we think is insignificant. Ultimately, stewardship is not just about managing resources. It is about honoring the one who gave them. To be a good steward is to recognize that we will one day give account, not with fear, but with joy, knowing we took what was placed in our hands and multiplied it for good. And in that day, the words we long to hear will not be about wealth or fame, but simple and eternal. Well done, good and faithful servant. The world measures success in profits, possessions, and power, but the Bible introduces a principle more ancient and more enduring than any modern model, the law of sowing and reaping. It is not a clever metaphor or a symbolic teaching. It is a divine order, as unbreakable as gravity, woven into the fabric of both the natural and spiritual realms. What a person sows, they will surely reap. This is not a matter of if, but when. And in this principle lies one of the most powerful, unshakable businesses ever known, the business of sowing with faith and purpose. In the agricultural world, a farmer knows that seeds planted today do not bear fruit tomorrow. The process involves waiting, watering, and weathering seasons of uncertainty. And yet, the farmer sows without hesitation because the principle of the harvest is trusted. Scripture calls us to adopt the same mindset, not only with money or material things, but with our actions, our words, our time, and our character. Every deed, no matter how small or unseen, is a seed. The smile offered in passing, the hand extended to help, the generous gift given in silence. All of these are seeds that go into soil we may not fully understand, but they do not go unseen by God. Many people want a harvest without sowing. They long for peace without practicing forgiveness, for prosperity without discipline, for purpose without obedience. But the kingdom does not operate on shortcuts. It operates on sowing, and the harvest always reflects the seed. One cannot sow bitterness and expect joy. One cannot plant selfishness and reap community. The field gives back what was given to it, often multiplied. So we are called to sow intentionally and generously, knowing that every moment is fertile ground. The Scriptures also emphasize that we must not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. This is critical, because the delay between sowing and reaping can tempt us to abandon the process. But delay is not denial. The seeds of faithfulness take time to mature, and often the greatest harvests come from seeds watered by persistence in the dark. This is where many turn back, believing nothing is happening beneath the soil. Yet God, the master gardener, is never idle. He tends to what we plant with care, and he is faithful to bring increase in his perfect timing. To live a life of sowing is to live a life that outlives us. We may never see the full fruit of our kindness, generosity, or integrity, but others will. Generations are impacted by seeds planted in quiet obedience. This is the business that never fails, because it is anchored in eternal truth and governed by divine law. The world may ignore it, but it cannot escape it. And those who engage in this work, who sow with purpose and patience, will find themselves surprised not only by the abundance of their harvest, but by the joy of having partnered with God in the secret growth of His kingdom. In a world where deception often parades as wisdom and truth is traded for convenience, the business of truth remains one of the most enduring and unshakable ventures revealed in Scripture. Unlike fleeting trends or unstable markets, truth is not subject to the whims of culture or the sway of popular opinion. It is eternal, anchored in the very nature of God Himself, who is described as the same yesterday, today, and forever. To build one's life or work upon truth is not merely noble. It is the wisest and most sustainable foundation anyone can choose. Truth is not simply a set of facts or correct information. It is the light by which we see all things rightly. It clarifies motives, directs decisions, and exposes error not to condemn, but to correct. The Bible describes truth as a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. Without it, even the most ambitious plans are destined to collapse, for no structure, however grand, can endure if built on lies. The great deception of the age is that we can bend truth to fit our desires. But while feelings change and circumstances shift, truth does not move. It stands, even when it is unpopular, even when it is resisted, even when it is denied. To engage in the business of truth is to commit to honesty when it costs, to integrity when it's inconvenient, and to clarity when confusion would be easier. It demands courage, because truth often walks a narrow road, but it also grants peace, deep, enduring peace that is not shaken by the storms of life. A person who speaks truth and lives in truth may face resistance, but they do not fear exposure, for they have nothing to hide. Their yes means yes, and their no means no. They are the same in the shadows as they are in the spotlight, and that consistency becomes their shield. The power of truth is not just in what it protects us from, but in what it produces within us. It gives strength to our character, depth to our relationships, and clarity to our purpose. Those who walk in truth become trustworthy, and trust is the foundation of every lasting relationship, whether in family, in business, or in leadership. Falsehood might bring short-term gain, but it always demands a hidden cost. Truth may take longer to build, but what it builds endures. Moreover, the truth is not something we merely possess. It is something we must embody. It must move from our lips to our actions, from our beliefs to our behavior. We become messengers not by speech alone, but by the consistency of our lives. The Scripture assures us that the truth will set you free. It does not enslave, it liberates. It does not shame, it heals. And those who trade in this divine currency, those who align their lives with what is right and real, will find themselves not only secure but strong, not only firm but fruitful. In a time where falsehoods echo loudly and clarity feels rare, truth remains as steady as ever. To live in truth is to resist collapse, to invite trust, and to walk in step with the one who is truth itself. This business never fails, because its foundation is not man-made, but eternal.